When I pull out this question, how to face the life when you're tired? Well, I feel like basically for me, I have no answer right now because I've just been working for a few years. I'm not even into middle age, I'm not in marriage, even no girlfriend right now, struggling for credit card and lack of sleep, but full of a weird imagination on future life. Yes, that's what many of us doing right now. But when I walk around the street, look at some elder ladies and gentlemen drinking coffee, browsing smartphones, and repeating some old jokes they've been talking again and again there, well, I feel like maybe it's not that bad when I can retire. Because the big point of retirement is not just no more work, but also you can still live with money coming every year. Otherwise, it's gonna be more like losing your job. More importantly, as we human beings age be much longer with better healthcare, should we have more time to enjoy the retirement life? That sounds really dope, huh? Or it's actually a real dope. Yes, because most of us could possibly have no way to retire in the future. Hey guys, I'm your brother from None Around the Max, and welcome to my video. For this topic, I think we can review on what's really happening around us in this world right now. Firstly, let's look at the retirement age by countries. I think you can clearly find out no matter which place you're from, over 60 or even 65, like many Europeans. Yes, that's the kind of guys we mostly think living the paradise life, but without a gas and hit in 2022. Sorry, no more joke. I mean, this has been majority, even some places like Vietnam or India, which we used to think they are full of a workforce. You know, like the kind of scenarios that the streets are full of young guys and numerous labor fill the whole factory. But the truth is, most of us are retiring or will retire much later than our parents' generation. I know we're from different countries and currently some differences like retirement age or basic pension standard, but we are mostly under the social insurance system. In this system, we have to put part of our income to the system as saving for future retiring life. So we can see this is one of the modern social benefits, but meanwhile it's a mandatory benefit because every working place have to enforce the pension system, whether it's government agency or a company, and we employees have no choice at all. Moreover, most countries have very severe penalties for the institutions that do not implement it. As regular people, you have to pay the pension and social insurance for decades in a row to finally get the full amount. For example, now young guys in France need to work and pay 43 years to finally get the full pension. Otherwise, you can only get the discounted pension eventually. And by the way, look at our terrible inflation in 2023, which is another factor to discount your future pension. At least right now, the full pension in most countries seems to be unable to keep up with the rate of inflation in our world. So it seems like the mandatory pension system is a failed and personal investment. But here is the question, why is the pension system mandatory? I think we have to go back to where this system came from. Let's see what this system looked like when it was born. We know that the pension system originated in Europe at the end of 19th century, and the large-scale national system was in 20th century, especially after World War II. For example, the pension system in the United States began with the government employees, and it became popularized by the whole people after World War II. Therefore, this system was gradually formed after social stability in the whole country, especially those new regions that experienced post-war reconstruction, such as Europe, Japan, and China. So it shows that at the earliest time of the system, there were a large number of people in society, especially government employees, who did not pay pension for long enough like the current generation. But it doesn't mean they're not eligible for pensions, because most of them have made a sacrifice and efforts for the reconstructions of the country. Society should not abandon their pension, which is also one of the earliest promise of the modern society to its citizens. In the era of war or revolution, the country does not have enough funds and ability to take care of the pension of regular people. However, in a peaceful era, when the market economy becomes the main driving force of the country, the government's concentration of the national resources will also decline. But the pension is a system that requires the leading agency to mobilize the resources of the whole society to help those elder people. Finally, not everyone have the habit of saving. Without this compulsory system, many people are likely to have nothing and completely lose their ability to survive when they get old. So at this point, pension system came out. The basic principle of most today's national pension system is to give the current elderly from a big pool of national pension fund. After the young people who pay now retire, let the next group of young people replenish the funds from generation to generation. Therefore, the key to the operation of the system is that it cannot be interrupted. For example, like a certain generation of young people collectively refuse to pay, and that's the reason why it must be mandatory. When the world's economy is booming and the population continues to grow, this system certainly works perfectly. But what about now? I believe everyone has realized the problem. Strictly speaking, besides some places like Sub-Saharan Africa and Middle East, more and more countries have entered the age of aging or being aging. For example, even in India, which is often thought with the rapid growth in the past, there are many signs of slowing population growth in many regions. At present, almost all countries with rapid population growth are underdeveloped economies or non-secular societies, but no one can be sure if they will slow down when rich or more secular. At the same time, the age of people continues to grow with the help of modern healthcare, and full pensions in all countries are increasingly delayed. The huge pension pool we used to be proud of is facing the dilemma of less water in and more water out, which means the big pool is shrinking. Therefore, it's only a matter of time before the pool finally dries out. Of course, from an optimist point of view, every generation of human beings have all kinds of new problems, and the process of our society is also progressing in the process of consistently solving new problems. Even if our predictions for the future are often wrong, for example, looking back at our science fiction decades ago, we always imagine like 2023 should be full of flying cars and a convenient spaceship, but the reality is that we stay in a small room every day, browsing a small screen, and going out to drive the car, which is not much different from our parents decades ago. Therefore, wrong predictions will also affect our investment efforts in the future. Just like the first batch of modern workers, some of them chose to smash machines to refuse to enter the industrial era. While more and more our pension system protests, hoping to get a more decent retirement life, but how many people have been thinking about if we can really retire in the future? This seems to be another time-related math question, because aging and pension shrinkage are common problems everywhere, and the current approach of all governments is to delay retirement, because this can not only reduce the number of people supported by pensions, but also expand the number of taxpayers and maintain the size of pension pool. Therefore, such simple and crude measures naturally arouse public anger, like the annual pension protests in France. Starting from 2023, the retirement age in France has been delayed by 3 months a year until the year of 2030 to the age of 64. Some special industries, like cleaners, can retire a little bit earlier, but there's no concession to delay retirement, because in the eyes of a government, these protests are considered stupid. From French President Macron's many public words, he believes people's protests could only make no one take responsibility of pension reform, and in order to maintain the system from collapsing, the government can only be the violent and implement policies that no one likes. But in the eyes of the public, once delayed retirement continues without restrictions, retirement will only be more and more distant. By 2030, Macron, who once made this decision, is no longer in power, and he would have nothing to do with all matters in the future. In another country, Russia, the government has a similar attitude. In 2019, they announced that by 2028, The retirement age would be postponed to 65 years for men and 63 years for women. Putin also made similar remarks. He said that he and officials did not like this policy because it cannot please most voters. The Russian government can choose not to do anything in the next 10 years, but 10 years later, the number of retirees will exceed the working population, and the system would definitely be close to a collapse. Finally, let's look at Japan. Japan is almost the first country on earth to experience aging and delayed retirement. Today, decades later, there's basically no more protest because many elder people are afraid to retire and they are more willing to continue working. They will not be able to survive on their little pensions and they will only be homeless if no work. So in Japan, you often see 70-year-old truck driver or even 80-year-old restaurant chef. Former Japanese Prime Minister Abe once said in 2018 he hoped that the Japanese society would create a diversified way of working and achieve the lifelong no-retirement society. Well, I think if this slogan were put out in France, regular people may consider capturing the Elysee Palace. Therefore, mandatory retirement in Japan have almost disappeared. The government arranged jobs for 70 years old to continue to contribute in the last days of their lives, which seems to be another kind of benefit. For other countries, delayed retirement is in progress. Many countries are delaying retirement by 3 months every year and is likely to accelerate in the future. For example, delaying retirement for over 1 year every year. So, are we really not be able to retire forever? Of course, many people will say this is absolutely impossible. It's so hard to be able to continue high-intensity work in the time before your death. For example, we can't imagine an 80-year-old to serve hundreds of people in a restaurant every day with his trembling hands. But I feel like maybe we can imagine a little bit bolder. A few years ago, a theory of technical stagnation began to become popular, like the hot concept of cyberpunk, because objectively, basic scientific research and innovative technology have not come out for decades, especially energy power. The application technology with huge achievement is only the chip or internet, and the recent AI and electric vehicles are still far from completely subverting the whole society. Ray Kurzweil, a well-known scientist and writer, once made a amazing point in 2016 that the extension of our human life will reach a critical point in 2029, and then technology will make us to expand our lives by 1 year every year, and even the future may extend our lives more than the time span. Even though he did not say that's immortality, but I guess it's almost. In those years, this point was more like a joke, but what about now? For example, the AI technology, in the next few years, more data will enter its model with its ability to evaluate the program. Nobody can predict what level AI will evolve to in the future. So, can our body access the sensor to the AI system in the future? Let the AI system analyze your body through sensors and then tell you what to eat and what to attention every day in the future. Just like the TV series Black Mirror, you have the smartest health assistant to help you. Because now our health prevention has a fatal weakness. That is, we cannot give the most accurate advice according to everyone's physical condition, even consulting the best doctors. We regular people can only adjust according to some rough health guidelines. But the accuracy of AI technology can improve this problem very well. This is actually more with the direction of our modern medicine. Currently, doctors are more preferring reminding us to take measures in advance to prevent diseases, such as regular health checkup, instead of keeping healthy by completely killing virus. After all, killing the virus will also bring huge harm to our body. Modern medicine has discovered the principle of cells self-repairing, but aging will reduce our repairing materials, and eventually the repair process cannot be sustained, which is also the big cause of our aging and death. Although we cannot intervene in the process now, because we have just discovered the principle, but it doesn't mean in the future it's impossible. But as the pressure of aging and pension depletion approaches, it's not impossible to reach the technology singularity in the future. After that, many of our current morals and laws will be totally destroyed, and we may never be able to achieve the immortality of most people, because aging is a self-destructive instructions in our gene and a problem that we cannot solve at present. Even if one day we solve this problem, violating the laws of nature, we have to know paying the price is irresistible. For eternal life, the first challenge could be keeping learning new knowledge all the way to adapt to the changing environment until we die at work because of learning pressure. And the governments and the enterprises will also like to keep the unlimited high-quality labor force in this way. So at the time, probably no one cares about the retirement system anymore. But there's also some bigger possibility. First one is technology gives people eternal life, and the second one is more people become redundant labor, and finally fall into poverty until they die from overwork. And then the population continues to decline, which is one of the concepts of cyberpunk. But these two situations may happen at the same time, only in different groups, the poor and the rich. Back to the topic, not being able to retire in the future seems to be exaggerating, but according to my analysis, we can say there is a possibility. So, for the terrible future, what can we do to prepare? There seems to be only one, that is, to make more money, desperately to accumulate wealth. Even though not everyone has the ability to make huge amount of wealth, it makes sense for the uncertainty of the future, whether it's your asset or your savings. First of all, you can choose to adjust yourself by not working for a little while, especially when you know that you have to work for life. Because at the time, your assets are no longer for retirement, but for a relaxing time in your whole life. Our previous point is that we have savings to enjoy life when we get old, but the pessimistic future seems to tell us that we can only give ourselves a long holiday, especially in the countries with a poor welfare system. And this relaxing time is also the most precious part of your life. The second is that when the technological critical point really comes, sufficient wealth will give you the opportunity to give immortality. When aging changes from an ultimate problem to the possibility of solving, where no one really try, especially for those rich guys, the pressure of buying luxury goods and houses is just short, and the accumulated wealth is more like to set up for the emergence of the new technologies in the future. Because when the era came, some people achieved the immortality and had a human modification technology. Maybe at the time, human beings no longer need to use wealth to divide groups, because wealth has divided human beings into different species. And the genetic changes could also make different human species reproductively isolated. Simply saying, you have to change your whole body if you want to marry to a rich guy in the future. Therefore, environmental change has never changed the law of nature, and that is the survival of fittest, which is also known as the natural selection. Whether we can adapt to the future firstly depends on whether we recognize the change. The retirement system, enjoying pensions, and even aging or death are likely to change. So for young guys who are still studying and working today, we should consider if we can really rely on pensions to have a decent retirement life in the future. Finally, I just want to say, given a previous understanding of the future and thinking about possible environmental changes in advance, that is a big topic for our future life. Thank you guys for watching, and hopefully subscribe, ring the bell, and leave some comments if you like. See you next time.